a mad, 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 mad world. A statement that's perhaps true enough without any explanation. But what we are looking at today is the 1963 movie. A movie not about cars, just a movie that is chock full of them. It's supposed to be a comedy, with an all-star cast that included several top comedians of the day, as well as several earlier legends. The premise is quite simple. A group of motorists crossing the California desert witness a speeding driver crash his car. The car in question is a 57 Ford Fairlane, with the driver Smiler Grogan, played by the legendary Jimmy Durante. The car launches itself off a mountain ridge, with a less than graceful landing. The drivers of the four cars that witnessed the crash pull over, and the occupants rush down to help the driver of the crashed car. And in a semi-delusional rant, he tells them where he had buried $350,000 15 years before, which would be well over $3 million today. And then he kicks the bucket, in more ways than one. The group initially agree to cooperate to find the money, but when they can't agree on how it should be split...
Now, as I understand it, I got one share for being one person, one share for going down the hill, one share for the truck, and one share for being a person in the truck. But no matter how you figure it out, I still don't get as much as anybody else.
They quickly turn on each other in a race to be the first ones to find it. In a park 200 miles away, under a big W. The four vehicles that start the race are a 1962 Imperial Crown convertible, driven by a vacationing couple, Russell and Emmeline Finch, and the wife's mother, Mrs. Marcus. They're played by Milton Berle, Dorothy Previne, and Ethel Merman. Russell is trying to recover from a nervous breakdown caused by the financial issues of his seaweed snack company. So naturally, having his obnoxious mother-in-law come along is very helpful. Another couple, in a 1962 Plymouth Belvedere Suburban, dentist Melvin Crump and his wife Monica, are on their second honeymoon, played by Sid Caesar and Edie Adams. Mickey Rooney and Buddy Hackett played Ding and Benji in a 1954 Volkswagen Beetle convertible. And there's a 56 Ford cab-over box truck being used as a moving van, driven by Lenny Pike, or Jonathan Winters. And the whole thing is complicated by the fact that a police detective, played by Spencer Tracy, is aware of what is going on and plans to follow them to the stolen cash and then swoop in and confiscate it. So naturally, trouble begins from the outset. Things as simple as running oncoming traffic off the road to difficulties with paper maps and open windows. When a country airfield gets their attention, they all turn off onto the dirt road to get there, with the Imperial becoming immediately stuck in the sand, and is then rear-ended by the box truck, taking both vehicles out of commission. And soon the Volkswagen, following the station wagon, stalls from all the dust. Of course, the only charter plane at the airfield is a pre-World War I biplane, but that should be fine, even if it does turn out to be slower than highway traffic. Meanwhile, back at the accident, Russell convinces Lenny to take a girl's bike from the back of the truck and head down the highway to look for help. But while they wait, they are able to flag down a Willys wagon full of desert flora, driven by a Lieutenant Colonel Algernon Hawthorne, played by Terry Thomas, and the group soon blows past the struggling and frustrated Lenny, who is soon able to flag down a ride of his own, a 47 Ford Deluxe convertible, driven by Otto Meyer, played by Phil Silvers, perhaps best known as Sergeant Bilko. Otto, after hearing the story, immediately ditches Lenny to go after the money himself, but, in what could be considered instant karma, ends up with a flat tire just a couple miles down the road. Then Lenny manages to catch up with him at the next service station, but Otto manages to get away with the help of the service station attendants, and Lenny steals their 51 Dodge M37 Power Wagon tow truck to go after him. The service station itself, however, doesn't survive. Ding and Benji eventually make it to the airfield, but with no other charter, they try to convince a wealthy drunkard, Tyler Fitzgerald, to take them on his private plane, if they can sober him up. Fitzgerald, being played by Jim Backus, recognized by many as Mr. Howell, and naturally, things go well. Due to the actions of Mrs. Marcus, the Jeep is damaged when she decides that she can just call her son, Sylvester, who is close to their final destination, and she slaps the driver in her excitement, causing him to veer off the road. But Sylvester is an irresponsible nut, and this creates a conflict in the group, and they split up, with the girls getting left behind, only to be picked up by Lenny. But instead of listening to his mother and going for the money, Sylvester heads the opposite direction to rescue his mother, speeding down the highway in his '62 Dodge Dart convertible. Elsewhere, Otto gets sidetracked onto a path that takes out his oil pan and eventually his car, just about the same time that the Jeep loses its front wheel and crashes again. And, once again due to the actions of Mrs. Marcus, the Power Wagon almost suffers a similar fate to the Jeep. Russell and Algernon manage to replace the Jeep with a '61 Chevy Impala rental car, but it isn't long before they cross paths with Sylvester, leading to something like bumper cars until both cars are run off the road. But eventually everyone manages to make it to the park, finds the giant W and the treasure, with the detective being among them. When he doesn't press charges, it is speculated that he's taking the money for himself, leading to yet another chase that includes a pair of '59 Plymouth Savoy taxis and the detective's '62 Dodge Dart sedan. The movie seems to have an infinite list of cameos. Andy Devine is the county sheriff.
That's right.
Jerry Lewis is a crazed driver that intentionally runs over the detective's hat in a '62 Chrysler 300 convertible. Nicodemus Stewart, who is best known as Lightning in Amos and Andy, and the train porter in practically everything with the train, is the driver of a 50-ish Ford truck that ran off the road. Jack Benny is a passing concerned motorist in a '31 Cadillac convertible. The Three Stooges are airport firemen. Eddie Rochester Anderson and Peter Falk are taxi drivers. Don Knotts is the nervous driver of a '56 Ford Sunliner that picks up a hitchhiking auto. Even Buster Keaton is in it. In fact, it is said that everybody in this movie is somebody, and several planned cameos had to be canceled due to scheduling conflicts or other reasons. And of course, the movie has dozens of '50s and early '60s background cars, including a '60 Buick ambulance and a '58 Cadillac ambulance. In the end, there is no winner. Some of the humor is questionable, tending to lean towards cheesy, even for the time, and at over 2.5 hours long, it is not surprising that there were several cut-down versions, and that is after being cut down from nearly 3.5 hours before being released in theaters. Still, it is worth watching just to see how many actors you recognize. And although the cars themselves were mostly mundane for the time, it is a nice snapshot of a different automotive period. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment below and like and subscribe.